The history of the South is varied, interesting, often controversial, and emotional. The history of the South includes the emergence of a vast economic system that depended upon international trade that was built upon the plantation system of agriculture. This farming, principally of tobacco, sugarcane, rice, and cotton, on a large scale was made possible by the plantation system. This economic system, fueled by an international demand for Southern farm and plantation products, was made possible by the institution of slavery in the American colonies, and particularly in the South until after the Civil War. Eventually, the social and economic systems built around this economy led to clashes with other forces in America, both political and social. The result was the emergence of the Confederacy as a breakaway government from the United States and ultimately a civil war. Plantations, slavery, Civil War, Confederacy. These are some of the things that we often associate with the history of the Old South. As I stated, these topics can often become emotional and controversial, but most importantly, I think it is how we personally view these facts of the Old South. Our personal images of the Old South are shaped by our understanding of this history and our own heritage as Southerners. The question is, do we all view these facts of our history in the same way, or is our view different depending upon our heritage? In this case, I pose the question of, is our view of Southern history as Southerners shaped, among other things, by our race? To explore this, I asked some of our peers, my friends of different races, about their views of these four topics. Not really detailed factual discussions, but what they think of when they think of these topics. My belief is that the images that first come to our minds when talking about these topics must influence how we see the greater issues involved. This project will explore those first images we have and whether our race influences how we think about the facts. I first interviewed a white Southern female student from Houma, Louisiana. Then I interviewed my other friend, a Southern African American female from Texas. I asked each of them the same three questions. What images come to your mind when you think of Southern plantation society or plantations in general? What images come to mind when you think of the Civil War? And what comes to mind when you think of the Confederacy and the Confederate flag? My first friend from Houma was reminded of her heritage and family background. Southern plantation society reminded her of extravagant parties, but also of working plantations, the kind that her family owned and worked on without slaves. The Civil War reminds her of Union soldiers taking over the large plantation homes, and the Confederate flag reminds her of Southern pride rather than a symbol of slavery. My African American friend from Dallas, on the other hand, was reminded of slavery and the cruelty that happened when asked about plantations. The Civil War serves as a reminder of the end of slavery and the pride that African Americans who fought in the war felt. And when asked about her feelings of the Confederate flag, she thought of ignorance and racism. I was struck about how different their initial responses to the topics were. My white friend saw the South as a beautiful, proud, and hardworking, while my African American friend saw the Old South as a dark history and the Civil War not as a Southern defeat, but a victory for freedom. My conclusion is that race plays a large role in our perceptions of the history of the South, and this teaches us a valuable lesson. The lesson is we must be cognizant of how different people may view the same facts in a different light, and how that might impact how we interact with one another when talking about those issues. This ability to understand another person's point of view is indispensable for us to have productive discussions about our past and what that may mean for the present and for our future.